Welcome to another edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast, a Chelsea podcast with three Sunday League playing footballing friends united for a love of Chelsea Football Club. And dark clouds continue to be looming over Kings Road, where Chelsea continue their illustrious form by losing 1-0 against Aston Villa. Timber and I had the misfortune of departing with our money and time to go there and sit in the Matthew Hyden upper and watch that absolute horror show. Charlie is dying with COVID, but he was there with us in spirit. He was. Chaps, how are you guys doing this week?
Go on, Charlie. I'll let you go first.
Oh, I've got COVID, so I ain't too great, but I think that was about the icing on the cake for me. It was a weird one, wasn't it? Because it was sort of expected. I remember about a week ago we had the preview for this game, and despite all the bookmakers saying it was about 3-1 for Villa to win, we just knew as Chelsea fan, we've seen it time and time again, exactly which way it was going to go. And even though, yes, everyone can say, oh, yeah, we created a few chances. We knew that we couldn't put the ball in the back of net. And we knew that once that red card, we knew that Villa would score. And the other thing that I want to add is when Villa scored, we knew that was game over.
Well, that wraps up this week's episode of We Talk Chelsea. Now I'm joking. Very short message there from Charlie. Tem, it's not been a fantastic week, has it?
No, I think it was pretty much what we all expected. I at least expected us to see a goal or some sort of consolation, but at the same time, I think that red card really changed the game for us in terms of going forward. However, if that game had gone on for another 200 minutes, would we have scored? I don't think so. So at the same time, it is what it is. But yeah, I think we all knew Villa were going to be the winners yesterday. So unfortunately, it is what it is.
Exactly. We are live on YouTube and live on TKS TV. Make sure you haven't hit subscribe already. Please do so. We're one subscriber away from 100. So if you are watching this for the very first time and you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe link. It really helps. Charlie, you mentioned the preview. We're delighted to welcome back Niall and AJ from AGS TV representing the Villa contingent. I'll add them to the group now. Chaps, you must be loving life right now.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Flying high, 6th place. And in Europe. Although I wish the European game went better, but it's okay. Not a bad start.
Does this mean technically like Legia Warsaw would probably be like 4th in the Premier League if they were coming over here? Is that what it means?
Not only that, AEK Athens probably up there as well.
Yeah, probably. No, well, we'll delve a little bit deeper into this. So we're going to have like two perspectives on this one. But I think a key thing that we had a pre-conversation before we went live for the benefit of people watching us now. And the main thing we want to talk about is Jarrod Gillett. I've kind of put this little thing here. Is Jarrod Gillett, is he the new Anthony Taylor when it comes to Chelsea Football Club? Is he determined to take over and just be poor? But I think, AJ, you mentioned that it wasn't necessarily purely from a Chelsea standpoint that you saw him as a poor referee. Is that correct? What were your feelings on Jarrod Gillett?
He had a nightmare. He had a nightmare. First, there was that whole issue with the added on time. He gave 3 minutes and we played like a minute 50. Inconsistent decisions across the board. Giving soft free kicks for at one end, and then I don't know. I didn't see any consistency at all, and even I thought the red card was a joke. Like, I'm a Villa fan. Like, I'm just saying, if that happened to a Villa player, I'd be still talking about it now. Yeah, I thought it was a disastrous refereeing performance, and I think it ruined the game almost a little bit because it was quite neck and neck almost up until that point. And as soon as the red card came, I thought Villa kind of took over, and I think inevitably the goal was going to come.
Yeah. I mean, Niall, I don't know if that's a sentiment that you share with AJ. I mean, even Ollie Watkins himself said he didn't believe that Malo Gusto's challenge warranted a red card decision. How do you feel about the game going forward? Because for me personally, I felt the first half was somewhat fairly even. Both sides created chances. I think Lucas Digne had the best chance with the volley from the edge of the box. Very well saved by Robert Sanchez. But how did you feel about the red card challenge? Was it a red card? Would you be happy if it was Lucas Digne the other way around and being sent off?
I thought it was a stonewall red card. To be honest, it's mad, isn't it? We watch the same game, we support the same team, and it's totally two different opinions. For me, there's not a referee on the planet for me that goes to the review and doesn't give it after seeing it on an on-field review.
Yeah,
I thought it showed intent. The studs are up. So you say, was it a booking? At least you're saying it's a yellow for you, is it?
yeah. For me, 100%, it's a yellow. I think. Again, I have to try and sit here from a very level-headed, unbiased position as much as I possibly can, and it's difficult for me to do so. But he goes through. He doesn't go through stubs up. He kind of ends up studs up. And I know we're splitting hairs about this, but I think it's a tricky one, because when you look at other decisions in the Premier League that took place yesterday with VAR, you look at, for example, we look back at the Eddie Nketiah challenge in the Arsenal Spurs game. It's a different challenge, but that didn't even warrant going back to VAR, and that for me is a stonewall red card. I think we're just lacking a bit of consistency when it comes to refereeing in this country. Do you agree, or is that something for you? Was it a red card watching it back? Because me live, I didn't think it was personally a red card watching it back on the screen, but you at the time said, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I disagree to begin with. I mean, I was sitting far away and I heard him win the ball like straight away. That's the main reason why I thought it wasn't a red card. But upon review, a challenge like that these days, it does get given as a red card. I think even if you do win the ball and you go studs over the ankle, it's a red card any day, all day of the week. I think it's endangering the opponent. I mean, we've seen challenges. I don't know if you remember when Nemanja Matic got challenged by a Burnley player where he kicked straight into his leg, and Matic ran over to him and pushed him over and got sent off for doing something similar. It was many years ago anyway. But challenges like that, I suppose, can really badly injure a player or put them out for months. And thank God, obviously, Lucas Digne wasn't injured too badly. But Nketiah's, I think the difference with Nketiah's one is that the studs didn't quite meet the his ankle sort of area. So maybe that's where
the studs didn't, but at the same time, what stopped that being an absolutely horrible challenge was Vicario raising his leg at the last second. Because if he'd have kept his leg planted, he would have broken his ankle, undoubtedly.
Probably.
So irrespective of studs being up, that to me, that Eddie Nketiah challenge, I know this is the We Talk Chelsea podcast and reviewing the Chelsea Villa game, but for me, that's a red card, and it looked the worst challenge. Charlie, I mean, from your perspective, as like when you watch the game back, because obviously it wasn't live in England, because why would it be at 2 p.m. on a Sunday? When you watched the game back, Charlie, did you agree with the challenge? Did you think, yeah, do you know what? I can see why it's a red card.
It just looks a lot worse, doesn't it, when it comes back? That's the thing. In real time, it's not a red card. No doubt about it. Why did the VAR get involved? Who knows? Yes, when you look at it back, and this is again the thing, and what Niall was saying, as soon as that man in black goes to the screen, everyone knows this. I mean, it's almost a pantomime. We've seen it so many times.
He was never not going to give it.
Troll over. Exactly. It's always going to be the same result. It's just a pantomime. They troll over there, look at a screen, and try and convince themselves that they've made the wrong decision. We've seen it so many times in this league. I mean, I would argue, how many times have you actually seen a referee look at a screen and go, actually, I made the right decision? I've never seen it.
It did actually happen for Villa against Crystal Palace
at
the last game, but that is the only time I've seen it in the last probably year. It very rarely happens.
But it's a pantomime, isn't it? Do you not agree?
The way
they do it, they do it for the people. And I was quite surprised, actually. Apparently yesterday, and Tom and Tem will say this, apparently they had it on the screen, didn't they? They actually had that challenge on the screen. I've never heard about that before. Was that an accident, or is it just the guy who had the TV was that shocked at the decision? He decided that
it was after the decision was made. So it was shown on the screen after the decision was made. So it was he quelled the yellow, gave the red, and then they showed it back on the screen. And I don't know if you were watching it live, the boos rang out, like it was loud.
Can I just say, right, it's supposed to be like when they go to VAR, it's supposed to be clear and obvious, right? The fact we're
Yeah.
talking about it shows it's not. That to
Yeah.
me means it shouldn't have probably been given. Because the on-field decision was yellow card. It's not clear and obvious, so it probably should have stayed a yellow card.
This is a whole other rabbit hole, isn't it? About VAR in general. I hate it, and Timber and Charlie know my opinion. I absolutely hate it in general anyway. So, I'd rather it not be there. Human error. We've 150 years of the game. We've managed.
I will say I think it does help with offsides quite a bit. Because there have been like absolute howlers in the past where I can remember. I remember Drogba's offside goal at Man United. He was like 5 yards offside, and they never gave it that time. Thankfully, in our favour, because I think Makeda scored a handball goal that Man United fans seem to always forget about the same game. But decisions like that where VAR does definitely help. But I agree, as a fan, when you're at the stadium or even just watching the game live on TV or whatever, it doesn't matter where you are. I think it does ruin that bit of atmosphere and just,
you can't celebrate goals anymore.
No. People celebrate VAR decisions. That's what it's called. How mad is that?
Have you seen that when players score goals now, they can't lose their proverbial shit because they're like they're looking over their shoulder to check if it's going to be checked for VAR. It kind of takes a little bit of the emotion and a bit of the drama away. It's a tricky one, and I don't really know how to address it really. I think maybe for offsides, yes, but if it's violent conduct, then by all means. If somebody's elbowed somebody in the head and it's gone completely missing, I'm going to be I'll be pissed off as well if somebody wasn't given a red card for that. So it's just tricky, and it's a shame that we're still in this day and age having to, with how long VAR been in now, 4 seasons, and we're still talking about VAR bad mistakes. We're supposed to eradicate it.
Can I just mention one thing as well about the match yesterday? I mean, before that VAR decision, right? I think we were fairly in it, but it was still 0-0. Let's be frank about it. And we still had 30 minutes left, or 20 minutes left plus, you know what it's like nowadays with the extra added time and all this sort of stuff. Right, it's about 30 minutes left. If Gusto didn't get sent off, what would the scoreline have been? I mean, I don't think we would have won that match anyway. So it's an irrelevancy. Again,
I'm not too sure what the scoreline would have been. I think, Villa definitely threatened in the first half, but in the second half, before the red card, Chelsea were kind of coming into it a little bit more. I mean, which is kind of...
Yeah, so I was going to say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I thought the first half was very even. Second half, I thought Chelsea came out really strong. And up until that red card, I thought Chelsea was starting to dominate the game, and it felt like if there was to be a goal, it was going to come from you guys. That's how I felt anyway. As soon as the red card came, that all went, and the tide, I think, went the other way.
Yeah.
Because straight away, Sterling had that chance within 2 minutes of the restart.
Yeah, is that the chance that he's through when he was definitely onside and then he had the opportunity?
No, it weren't that one. It was the one where he had a shot from an acute angle
on the right.
Then got injured
yeah, that one.
Yeah. Well, he had a lot of chances in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, Adam here saying the red was slightly harsh, as they often do look worse, slow down. It's always the way, you can freeze frame it at any point. It's always the way. AJ, no, I want to speak to you about being Villa fans and coming to Stamford Bridge now. I think a key thing that I noticed from the game yesterday with Timber is that the atmosphere has changed massively. I personally haven't been to Stamford Bridge in about 7 or so years. I've been to away games in Wembley, but not to Stamford Bridge for various different reasons. But the atmosphere looked different. It felt different. There wasn't as much chanting. I didn't hear Carefree sung once. Even Chelsea, and we get ribbed on for that. That didn't echo once around Stamford Bridge. As Villa fans, do you look at the fixture and see Chelsea on the list and think, oh no, we've got to go to Chelsea, it's going to be a tough one? Or do you think, do you know what, the way that they're playing, Chelsea statistically are the worst team in the Premier League in 2023, collected the least amount of points? Do you fear coming to Chelsea, or do you think, do you know what, it's just another game that we should be taking 3 points?
I think Emery himself has proven that he doesn't fear the way he played with the high line. Because that's something you do against bottom half teams and stuff like that. I mean, if it was me, I still think going to Stamford Bridge, I'd still take I know how bad you've been, but I'd still take a draw. A win's a bonus there. it's because it's still Chelsea in name. I know it's not Chelsea when I was growing up and whatever, but if someone would have said to me before the game Sunday, would you take a draw? I would have taken it, and I predicted a draw as well. So, Todd Bowley's just sucked the life out of Chelsea. I think.
We'll probably delve a little bit into the Todd Bowley situation once we've done the review with yourselves, chaps. But I wanted to touch upon one thing that struck me, that me and Tem on the train home, because obviously we both live in Birmingham, so naturally the train was filled with Aston Villa fans and Arsenal fans. And the key thing that we were listening to, overhearing a lot of chatter from the Villa fans, is they were saying it was the perfect away performance.
Yeah, it was. Clean sheet away from home. I thought everyone played their part. Rode our luck a few times with some chances, but I thought it was excellent. Pau Torres and Konsa, centre-back partnership. We've had injuries with Mings and Diego Carlos. So centre-back's been a little bit of an issue at times. But I thought their partnership was really good in that game. I thought it was brilliant.
I think it's how you define a perfect performance. I mean, the likes of Jose Mourinho as a manager probably would look at that and would think that is winning 1-0 away from home, nicking the game with just an even game and one chance goes in. But like a Pep Guardiola wouldn't, for example. But it's really how you perceive the game, really. And just win football matches is what. So to me, it is. It is a perfect performance because we've won the game. That's all. We've got the 3. We're going home with the 3 points, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So I agree.
I mean, I have to agree. Yeah, go on, Tim.
I just wanted to say I've said this many times this season. I think it's been a case of Chelsea v Chelsea a lot of the time. It's not Chelsea versus the opposition. It's a case of we're making the game a lot harder for ourselves. I think as good as Villa were defensively, we could have scored yesterday. But again, it's really down to us not putting the ball in the back of the net.
I've never seen a team so wasteful in front of goal.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you see with our conversion rate, we're I think 20th, 5.5% conversion rate.
Yeah, I think we are, in terms of big chances in the Premier League, we are bottom. 20th big chances that have failed to be converted. Chelsea 5%, 1 in 20 shots on target result in a goal.
And that Raheem Sterling chance just epitomised it. Although I think he was offside, any sort of sane footballer passes that across to Jackson.
Squares it. Yeah.
I was very selfish. I thought it was very selfish of Sterling.
It's something we've seen with Raheem Sterling since he's been at Chelsea. I think he's not really taken the onus to be the, what can I say, like a model example, should I say. I think he's tried so hard to score or take things on himself where maybe he could have looked to pass or been a bit more calm in front of goal, and it just sort of shows that even if your supposedly best finisher is doing things like that, who's going to follow suit and how are they going to follow suit?
Yeah, I think his ego gets in the way a little bit at times.
Yeah,
I think he still thinks he's that 30 goal a season Man City player.
Yeah, he said himself that he thinks he's going to be Chelsea's top goal scorer this season. So tells you all you need to know, really.
With 4 probably. 4 goals. It's not hard, and I think Jorginho was the top scorer last season, and he was season before, and it had like 6.
He only scores penalties.
Yeah. Exactly, it's absolutely terrible. I'm quite curious, like as Villa fans, like Niall and AJ, like how has Unai Emery kind of changed your team for the better, and do you fear somebody higher up maybe losing a manager and then somebody coming in and nabbing Unai Emery? Because for me, and again, you can cut me down or whatever and say I'm completely wrong, but it kind of feels a bit like Carlo Ancelotti at Everton. Does that make sense?
No, I get where you're coming from. I think we've had so many poor managers over the years. It is concerning that, the better we do, more teams will look at Unai Emery and think, if they're having like a dry spell or like a bad period, they'll come in for Unai Emery. I think he's world class. I think he's one of the best managers in the world. He's proved that. He's won trophies everywhere he's gone. Like, I think he's amazing. And, you just look at where we were with Steven Gerrard and where we are now with almost the same team. That says everything.
I mean, it just goes to show what it means having a quality manager. We've had 5 of them in the last 9 months, and it's resulted in absolutely.
Yeah, we
nothing.
sacked one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I more or less said it on the podcast on Monday, didn't I, lads? That like I do think that we're very lucky to have this guy. I think he could easily
100%.
be managing someone above us in the food chain, as I'd say. We're so lucky, really, and you do worry that the likes of he's Spanish. Don't forget, Real Madrid or someone they're not doing very well, are they, at the moment? So if they were to come in, I think. Who's their manager? He's announced he's leaving.
Ancelotti. And he's off. He's off at the end of the season, I think.
Yeah, do you worry things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Chelsea game here, I can see Chelsea were caught in the offside trap, and it's something that Villa played absolutely fantastically. And I think AJ, you made a valid point. It shows to play such a high line away from home. Shows the lack of threat that Chelsea have in terms of goal scoring.
Can I interrupt you with that? Right, Aston Villa played that high line against Newcastle and got found out, and they played against Liverpool and got found out. Against a good team, they get found out with that high line. It's just the fact that we're useless. They played it. It was almost the equivalent of someone, going into a pub with a fancy dress outfit on. They just went in there and went, ha, ha, ha. I'm sorry, but that was the way that they set up. And they set up in that way because they knew it. They knew that they could catch us out. Sorry.
The Newcastle have Isaac and Wilson, and Liverpool have got Mo Salah and Darwin Núñez. This is the thing. You haven't got any goal scorer.
But you were saying if we play the high line, we've got a problem against Chelsea. Well, they straight away played the high line, and all they did is caught us offside the whole match.
I didn't
and
realise
literally
how wasteful you were.
But why does no one realise how bad we are? This is why it annoys me. I even want to get a job at the local bookies because I can't believe how they pitch us at odds on to win games at the moment. I can't get my head around it. I almost want to give someone a head wobble, in those sort of places because if you have seen what we've seen for the last 6 months, a year, it's the same old crap. I'm sorry, it is. Same old.
What do you put the bad finishing down to exactly? Low confidence? Like what does it come down to? Because it's happening to so many players. Jackson, Chilwell, Sterling. These are top class players missing big chances.
They're not top class players. These are players that have been bought for a top class money. That's one thing that I will say. You could argue that a good owner is spending £1 billion, for example, but it doesn't mean that necessarily you spend it the right way, okay? Yeah. And if Mudryk costs $100 million, does that make him a good player? Well, no. So far, we've seen no evidence.
Oh, you put a good ball through.
He should have got a goal contribution.
Oh yeah, that was worth $100 million, wasn't it? You see what I'm trying to say? It's not worth $100 million. And this is what I'm trying to say is that it's all well and good going, oh yeah, these owners are digging their hands in their pockets, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not run in the correct way. I mean, look, I could find a billionaire down the road who will spend £1 billion on the lottery to win 100 million on the lottery, right? It's idiot. Of course he is, and this is what I'm trying to say. It's just idiocy from top, especially from the top, all the way down to the bottom.
You've got the financial backing, but no direction. I question the scouting team. Do you just buy players based on purple patches? Like Caicedo has a decent few months with Brighton, comes to Chelsea. None of that form is replicated. It's 150 million player.
I would agree that Nicolas Jackson was bought on the basis of a purple patch because all his goals came in the second half of the Liga season for Villarreal. And I think because we got him relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things, around about 35 million, I think that was a sale as a purple patch. And I think it blows my mind how we still, having spent 1.1 billion or whatever it is now, we still don't have an out-and-out number 9 that's able to put the ball in the net. How can you invest so much in all different areas of the pitch that didn't need as much heavy investment as they did, whereas Chelsea were just are lacking a number 9. I mean, I prefer this one, guys, to you, because obviously, how do you rate, like, we don't see Ollie Watkins every week, but I rate him very, very highly. He got the goal, he took his chance well. I think he's, again, if I've watched this, I thought he's kept relatively quiet throughout the game. Again, that probably just me watching with my Chelsea shirt on and only looking at the Chelsea blue running about the pitch and seeing what they were doing wrong. But Ollie Watkins, that's the difference between Chelsea and Ollie Watkins. I think our strikers and him, like, he had one clear-cut opportunity and he took it. And that's exactly what you need, isn't it? And he seems like he's that player.
I've always waxed lyrical about him. I love him. I don't understand why Villa fans moan about him. I mean, Man United have just signed that Højlund, and they're the biggest club in the world. And he's got a terrible record. Well, it's not great for the money that they've spent. So I don't really understand why Villa fans think we can get. If Watkins, is shipped out or whatever, or, you get all these things, don't you, that he's not a number 9 or he doesn't score enough goals, but he keeps getting double figures.
Watkins was getting stick on Twitter basically because he hadn't scored a Premier League goal until yesterday.
Yeah.
He's a purple patch player, but I think that's just the nature of the 1-in-3 striker.
Well, people are saying, like, we've got Duran, who's the backup striker. He scored against Everton. He scored against Legia Warsaw. He's come in off the bench here and there, and he's done. At least scored more goals than Watkins. And Villa fans were saying, why don't we drop Ollie? Because he's not doing anything really. Yesterday I thought his hold-up play was all right, and he had one chance and took it. Clinical. I think he silenced the haters a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, that's.
I think I can speak for Charlie and Temba, but when it comes to players in a bad run of form or teams in a bad run of form, you come and play Chelsea. We are Charity FC. We'll give you 3 points. We'll get you back scoring, because that is always the way it has been. What do you guys make out, like this comment here from Villa for Whatever podcast? I think Chelsea would eventually click with Maurizio Pochettino. Still in transition, it would do them not playing in Europe this season. Focus on Premier League results. I mean, like, again, we can wax lyrical about it from a Chelsea perspective. From an outsider opinion looking in, of a club that's doing particularly well, in your opinion, if this was your club and you put yourself in this shoes, like you said, last season, you're Steven Gerrard, you were rock bottom of the league when Unai Emery came in. Do you stick or do you twist? If you were a Chelsea fan right now.
I think it's a tough one. I've just got a lot of questions about Chelsea. Like, Poch is playing players out of position. Like, first thing I noticed yesterday, he's got Gallagher in a pivot and Enzo as a 10. Yep. Like, those two out of position straight away. He's played Chilwell on the wing this season. Like, I don't get some of the decisions he's making. I just think not only you got on the field problems, you got off the field problems. You've had so many managers recently. Would sacking him do anything? Would we be in this? Like, would we have this conversation in like 3 months' time with someone else? I think there needs to be like a switch up in the board somewhere. I think Todd Bowley, if he wants to, keep on investing, I think he should get people who know what they're doing. In the club, try and keep, like, obviously provide the money, but keep away from like the decisions himself. Employ people who know what they're doing, and I think eventually the results will trickle in.
Well, the funniest thing is, right, and this could be quite a funny thing, right? And I found this out today. Obviously, Bruno got sacked today, and he was one of Brighton's, one of Graham Potter's mates, who was at Chelsea as an assistant manager. I didn't realise, but the sporting directors are both, Potter's, his sporting directors in Brighton. I mean, this is a joke. I mean, this club is run just like I don't even know who these people are. And these are people, and they're buying Brighton players, like the goalkeeper that we've got, Caicedo. I mean, Caicedo so far has shown absolutely nothing to show that he's worth anywhere near that money. I mean, Jude Bellingham straight away goes to Real Madrid. He must have had the whole of Europe fighting over him, and he's scored 5 goals in 7 games or something. Looks like a duck to water, literally. I can't believe that these are the people running the club. I'm sorry.
I'll caveat that with Jude Bellingham. I don't think we were ever in the running for him, but it is different because he's going from one league to another league. So naturally, the price is going to be lower in that respect as well. He also wanted to join Real Madrid. Like, I know Caicedo wanted to do so. It's a completely different position. Like, I have to play devil's advocate in this scenario and throw it across to Niall in this situation. Like, when it comes to Pochettino specifically, and if he was manager at your club and you're in Chelsea position here now, as an Aston Villa fan, like with Gerrard last year, do you stick or do you twist?
Well, I'd stick. It'd be silly to get rid of him. I mean, Gerrard had come from Scotland. I mean, Pochettino he's done well at Spurs in the past and he's managed big clubs and whatever. But yeah, I'd stick. It'd be stupid to get rid of him this early. You've got huge fixtures after you've got the two easier games against Fulham and Burnley. I think if he don't win any of them, I think he's in trouble regardless of what we're saying. I think because the fixtures after that are really quite daunting for you.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you now. Really was like, well, you've seen our fixtures coming up. Do you really think he makes it to even?
Well, he has to beat Fulham and Burnley. If he doesn't beat them,
but if he doesn't,
in trouble. I think they'll get rid potentially.
Yep. Yeah, I do agree with that. I think with the run you guys have got and with what we've seen with how managers have been dealt with, I think if things don't turn soon, like the only team you've beaten are on course to not even reach Derby County's point record.
Yeah.
So I think that says it all, really. Something has to change and soon for Poch.
Yeah, it really does, and I think I believe, in my opinion, if we don't get those points or even a minimum of 3 points or a win from those games against Fulham or away to Burnley, I think we could potentially be seeing curtains for Pochettino, and then the club is going to be relying on a new manager bounce in very, very tough fixtures. But that didn't exactly work last season either. So what's to say it's going to?
The circus continues. The circus continues if he goes. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about? Is it worse than Graham Potter era, or is it as bad?
Personally, I'll answer this. I think it's not as bad as Graham Potter, just because I think these players are trying, and it's a different. I think we genuinely are trying to get 3 points, whereas last season it looked like we just didn't want to be there. Like half the players didn't look like they want to be there. With this, I think it is growing pains and a lot of inexperience in terms of like situations in the final third. However, is Pochettino helping himself? No. So that's the big thing. If he plays the players in the right positions and we still see the same outcomes, we have nothing to blame him on. But the problem is that he's an ex-Spurs manager, so he's going to get less time with the fans.
He's up against it,
Yeah, he's up against it, and he's playing like Colwell at left back, although he had a really good game against Diaby yesterday. Things like that, and then putting Chilwell at left wing, not bringing taking off an attacker for an attacker instead of taking off a defensive player for another attacker. Things like that will not help him with the fans. And, you've seen with the fans already, they're sort of upset with this ownership, some of the decisions they've made, like getting rid of Mason Mount, getting rid of academy players, Gallagher's our captain, although we want to sell him. Like decisions like that, it won't really help him. And taking off Enzo, Caicedo, players like that, leaders in the team, and you're bringing on players with absolutely no Premier League experience, just hoping it works. And I think in that situation, he kind of just needs something to go right for him. Sort of at Spurs when Harry Kane was just given a chance and it sort of just exploded for him, and they started doing well after he started scoring goals. It's something similar at Chelsea, and the problem is at Chelsea that there's nobody who can put the ball in the back of the net. So if you've got no goal scorers, how are things ever going to go right for you?
Yeah, no, it's a messed up situation. But Niall, AJ, I really appreciate you both joining us to give us your perspective on yesterday's game. I wish you both luck for the rest of the season. However, when we do return to Villa Park in the new year, I hope you get your pants pulled down and we beat you 5-0. And Nicolas Jackson scores all 5. And I appreciate you both for joining us. If you're a Villa fan, make sure you do subscribe to AGS TV on YouTube and check out his videos. They're absolutely fantastic. But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
AJ.
very much. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, AJ.
No problem.
When we next play, that'll be like 3 managers' time for you lot. I'll be back on if you guys.
They'll be called Brighton by then.
We will. Yeah, we're a feeder team for Brighton.
It might be in League Two by then, but we'll see what we can do.
Exactly. Chaps, thanks very much for joining us. We'll continue
cheers.
to discuss Chelsea at great length for the next 25 minutes or so. Chaps, it's not fantastic, is it? It really, it just isn't. I can't. Tem, we weren't full of hope. I think we all predicted we'd lose, but it's the manner we lose. I'd much rather have lost having our pants completely pulled down 5-0 and just kept the shit show than just lose in such a bad manner. Because, in my opinion, I don't think either team deserves 3 points, really.
Yeah.
They just didn't. But the key thing on this is who's really to shoulder the blame on this. And Charlie, you made an interesting point, like on the WhatsApp before this, is who is really to shoulder the blame in this scenario. There's a variety of different mitigating factors on this one. We can talk about the revolving door of managers. We can talk about the bloated squad of mercenaries that you put it last season. They're gone now. We invested so much money in here now, but it just feels like we've got an ownership that are just playing Football Manager and buying players that they think they're going to get a good return on, and not trying to actually build a team that's going to win anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've come to the conclusion now. I came to the conclusion last season, to be honest, that the common denominator, and I've said it all along, is the ownership. I'm sorry, but since they've come in, they've sacked Tuchel. They've managed to grind this team down to 12th place or whatever it was last season. I don't even look at the table now because it's so depressing. And this season we're down to 14th, I think, or something like that. In fact, we were lucky that Brighton got a result against Bournemouth, weren't we, on Sunday? I mean, this is the sort of clutching at straws we're doing these days. I mean, it really is hopeless. And I can accept that these guys spent £1 billion or $1 billion or $1 billion Thai baht or whatever they spent. But the point is that they there surely has to come a point where what they bought is worth something. I mean, they can't be this bad. These guys that they bought. I mean, I can accept that you can, go down the bookies and, spend £5 on a rubbish bet or something. But this is criminal, and these guys are experienced business people by all accounts. I mean, does no one else have this feeling that I have? It is obvious that these guys are just idiots running the club.
I had a think about this actually earlier, and to be honest, I kind of do feel in a way sorry for them. In a way, I know this sounds silly. I know that came out silly, but
I will let you say your point, and then I cannot wait to counteract to it.
Okay, right. So if you look at it from the scenario of they've got this football club due to sanctions and whatever, we've gone through all that. Now Todd Bowley's been thrown into this transfer window. Remember, Marina and Cech have left by their own accord. They actually left. So let's get that straight before we start saying, they chucked them out or fired them. And then he has to deal with Thomas Tuchel and the transfers and whatnot. That part, I think that's completely wrong, where they messed up with that. They completely messed up with that. But then he thought, you know what, I'm not so good at this director ownership thing. I'm going to need sporting directors in who know about football. And he's looked at the model of Brighton. They're obviously he's obviously a guy who's good in investment firms, and Brighton are obviously famously good at investing in players who are young and profitable. And that's clearly the model that they've taken to a sort of project with Chelsea. So in January, we sign all these players who are, profitable. We step ahead of other clubs instead of letting the middle band get them, instead of letting them go to Brighton. We don't end up paying 200 million for them, whatever. However, maybe we've bought too many players at once. I think that's where they've gone wrong. But the transfer strategy hasn't worked out quite well. But in terms of the ownership themselves, they've done the right things in terms of turning this club upside down, trying to get new things, new model, new modern just way of everything. Like they brought in a new manager, giving him time. They did give Graham Potter time at the end of the day. I don't think anyone could say he was sacked too early, because after what was it, like 2 wins in 22, something like, along those lines, you can't really say, oh yeah, he needs more time. And then this summer, I think again it is a transfer thing of you've signed too many players but with no direction. Like, you know, we signed Uguachukwu, we've got Caicedo there, still got Gallagher, you've still got Enzo. You signed Lavia on top of that. That's 5 midfielders, all got no experience. Well, some have experience, and 3 of them need experience. 2 get injured. The other 2 don't really know how to play together. So I can't blame them in the terms of like they haven't put their money where their mouth is. It's just how they've put their money where their mouth is what I'll argue. I think they've probably tried to do things in a sensible, logical way in terms of as an ownership, but in the sporting director sort of way, I think that's where it's been chaotic.
Okay.
And I want you guys to rebuttal that.
I will have this rebuttal. The big one that I want to hold up in this scenario is nobody forced them to buy Chelsea Football Club. Nobody made them gather up £4 billion worth of collateral to take advantage of a situation that was put in place by the UK government and forced them to spend £4 billion on a football club. They could have spent 20% of that and bought Brighton instead if they were so happy with the Brighton model and they were just going to replicate that. They should have just bought Brighton instead, because then they would have made more return on their investment, because they wouldn't have put less money into a club. They would then sell players for 100 million. If they're going to keep buying Caicedos and for 3 million from, you know, tiny teams in South America and then selling them on and shilling them to the big 6, then they should have just bought Brighton. So I don't feel sorry for them in the slightest. They have put their money in their mouth where their mouth is, but they've just spent it completely willy-nilly. They've spent it like a pissed up banker in a club buying £150 of bottles of vodka because they think just because they can. It's just stupid. They've just put money in an area where they shouldn't have done so. And they've been, I don't think when they first had an interest in Chelsea, their business use case has remained the same consistently from day one. I think it has changed every single time. Maybe I'll give them credit in terms of learning from their mistakes. However, surely this should have been ironed out before and had that contingency plan, because if you're building a business, you need to have a contingency plan. And I think they're just flying by the seat of their pants. And I think you don't need to have 2 co-sporting directors. You don't need 2 people doing the job of 1. And I think a key thing that Todd Bowley should have done sooner rather than later is not have him handle all those transfer negotiations, because he's not got any involvement in football at all. And that's where he went wrong from the very, very outset. And he should have done absolutely everything where possible to have kept Marina for at least a year to do the crossover period. Whilst I don't agree with everything that Marina did, she should have been that crossover period, and he should have paid a lot of money to Marina to keep her for a year. Because if you can spend 1.1 billion on players, you can spend a couple of million quid to keep her for another year in that role as an advisor to help with that crossover period and say, hey, I know absolute fuck all about football. Teach me.
Can I just say to that, she was actually in an advisor role for us for the first 3 months. So I will say he did do that. But in the sense of, I don't know what happened in the background in terms of...
It was on, Tim, that was on probably her notice period.
Yeah, but
I
that's
mean, for a job of that level, it would be 3 months would be a standard, notice period.
You either do your notice period, or they'll send you on gardening leave.
Yeah.
And the thing is, obviously, with from what I heard anyway from a podcast, it was London is Blue. Someone mentioned about when someone is taken away from sort of a footballing role on the board level, they're not allowed to see the transfer strategy. They can only advise, but they're not allowed to see who the club's targets are and, you know, the sort of business that the club are about to do. That's just protecting the club themselves from any potential deals going wrong. So I don't know in terms of like if Marina, if that was just part of the sale, like she had to leave because I'm not sure if is she Russian as well. I'm not sure if that's part of it.
Yeah, Polish, I think, or something like that. She's
I don't know if
half Canadian, half.
Come on.
She's mixed, half Canadian, half maybe half Russian, possibly.
Russian
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was part of the deal, like when she left and they all decided and agreed to leave, but that's the reports that were led to believe like she left on her own terms. It wasn't a thing of Todd Bowley forced her out or whatever. So we don't know if he did try that. And I will say this, he did try to get in Michael Edwards, who has been a fantastic sporting director for Liverpool, and he actually rejected us. So the next thing he did.
But why did he reject us? Because I think everybody's got price. And if he's willing to spend £1.1 billion on players, surely if you really, really, really want somebody to take over with a footballing brain, you pay them a bit more money, because it is a hell of a lot cheaper to get somebody with a footballing brain in as opposed to a whole new playing squad, surely.
I don't know.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, Tim. I'm playing devil's advocate. That is my role for this week's podcast.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. This is the point. This is the thing of like, we're not privy to know that knowledge. At the end of the day, he thought, if Michael Edwards isn't going to come to me, I'll go to the next best person or next best person with the wage packet that makes sense for me not to spend too much money. And at the end of the day, I think at the time we can all look at Brighton's model and think, if that can be translated to a higher level, we can still get the top targets and whatnot. How does that not make sense?
Because it can't. How can it be? You can in basic levels, right? Brighton's model is we will buy cheap and we will sell to big clubs, right? We are a big club. We will buy cheap. Who the hell do we sell to? You tell me.
Real Madrid, Barcelona.
Oh, come on. There's no money left there's no money in the rest of Europe anymore, apart from the Premier League. That's a fact. Premier League is where it's at. Oh, so what, we're going to sell to rivals? So what? So it's we're just doing ourselves down. Every time we get a good player, we just go and sell it to Man United, Man City. We've done the same this window. We sell Mount to Man United. We sell Kovacic to Man City. We sell Havertz. I mean, I'm not saying Havertz is some brilliant player, but these were the blue-eyed boys, weren't they? The club, let's face it. Yeah. So we've sold them all to rivals, and so now we've sold our whole academy. Lewis Hall, all these. I mean, Chalobah was waiting, at Heathrow Airport for a deal to Bayern Munich. Let's face it. Maatsen was on his way. I mean, it's just one after another. And is this a business plan? I mean, it's ridiculous, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with you on that front, but at the same time, spending 105 million on Caicedo isn't.
Exactly.
I mean, 105 million on Enzo isn't exactly an investment of we're looking for a return of investment right now. We're looking to win, and I think they've actually shown that we wanted to win. I mean, look at who they signed to begin with: Sterling, Koulibaly, Aubameyang. Those aren't players to think we're going to make a return on investment. The players they bought in January, I think that was a desperate attempt for them to get into the top four and try and get them as cheap as possible. I think they did well there. I think at the time we were all saying bringing in João Felix, Enzo, who else did they bring in? Mudryk. We all knew at that time we had fallen to 10th, 11th at the time.
We had an injury crisis.
I think,
and it rings bells about this season again. Is that we're going to walk into the local Sainsbury's in January and waiting for the sale again after the Boxing Day sale, and running around with a shopping trolley and seeing what we can find. It just sounds again like we're walking into that again.
Yeah,
is no one else seeing this? I mean,
I think we are, and it's not a case of me backing them. I'm just trying to see like both sides where they're coming from, not from where we're coming from. I'm with you. I think this is chaotic ownership. I think they've done so many things wrong, so many things wrong. You've seen like you said, like I've just said, like buying Sterling, Koulibaly, and whatever made them a complete U-turn. Now they think, oh, we have an under 23 policy, and now we're not going to sign anyone with any experience. Let us just buy all these young players, throw him to Pochettino, and let him deal with all the mess. Because the transfer strategy doesn't make sense. But I think that has been due to the sporting directors. I think they've seen where the money spent badly. Exactly what the Newcastle stand said. It is money spent badly. We've spent too much. I remember around deadline day, I said, why are we buying Cole Palmer for 40 million? That for me seemed like a waste of money.
Bizarre, and then he's not
Andre
started again.
Santos on loan. Look at Andre Santos now. He can't even get in the Nottingham Forest squad. But what was the point?
I mean,
Gallagher,
it's one of
another
these.
one. We've been trying to get rid of him, and he's
making him
he's our captain.
It makes zero sense. And I appreciate we've got 12 first team injuries. I really, really do. And it just goes to show that there's no clear defined role at the moment. It's looking like they're going youth. We could be laughing about this in 5 years' time, treble winners, all that nonsense. But realistically, we're probably not going to be. And it speaks volumes that a Newcastle fan is saying that money is spent badly, because they've actually spent it very, very well. And we all thought it's fully expected them to go out and spend 150 million on Neymar and everything, and to go full Saudi Pro League. And they've kind of got a direction, and we're just kind of left here sitting on our hands, wondering what the hell we're going to do window to window. In the interest of time, we should probably move forward to some other business on this scenario. So Chelsea, Timber and I took a trip down to Stamford Bridge yesterday to watch Chelsea lose, and I alluded to it in the first part. The atmosphere is absolutely dreadful. It is awful, and this is simply just down to Charlie. You've probably been to Stamford Bridge. Tim, you've probably been to Stamford Bridge more than I have. Like, we're having a discussion on a train, but it was very weird yesterday. I can't put that fully down to the run of form. I'm sure that's got something to do with it. When you factor in the fact that our ticket costs 60 quid, the train down costs 35 quid, if we're getting a taxi to the train station, food for the day, a day out at Chelsea is looking at upwards of like 120, 130 pounds. It's expensive. And it's the vocal younger fans of Chelsea that are going to do all the chanting, the slapping on the back of the Matthew Harding upper. Like, it's just not there. I mean, what can be done about this atmosphere situation? Because surely we need to make clubs don't fear coming to Stamford Bridge anymore. What can we do as fans, like match-going fans, that can help support it? Charlie, you've showed many pictures of me of yourself in the Matthew Harding lower across the years. Like, you were that young 16-year-old fan, admittedly, 20 years ago. But you were that. What can the club do? Because surely you can't keep justifying having that spend of £60 to keep watching that dross each and every week. There's got to be an incentive to keep fans happy, and surely a reduction in ticket prices might do something to help ease the mood.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? In the Premier League now, it's a 30 quid cap on the away tickets, and that's the reason why I've always gone to the away matches. I go to 8 or 10 away matches a season, as you guys know. Those are the ones that I enjoy more. Obviously, it's hard to get tickets. Obviously, I've been going for so long that I know a few people and this, that, and the other. But the point is that, yeah, I agree. It's all about the young fans. The young lads. And when you go to these away matches, I mean, again, like as a Newcastle fan on just now, I mean, bloody hell! I mean, they've got a cracking young fan base, haven't they? That AC Milan game midweek, I saw some really good pictures from that.
Yep.
We do. I agree. We just don't seem to have that at Chelsea anymore. And the home matches, certainly, Jesus Christ, the home matches these days, it is just like I hate to
cemetery,
say it, but it's
morgue.
Well, it's a
funeral home.
It's a corporate event, isn't it? Yeah. Let's face it. It's a corporate event. It's a lovely day out, but it's not something that you would do every week. If that makes sense. And the away matches are the where you actually see the real fans, the real people. And that's the way it goes. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I've always seen it.
No, I said that to my missus on the way home. She's like, "Oh, did you have a nice day?" And I went, "Well, yeah, but I couldn't do that every week." I just couldn't because it's a lot of money.
The money.
For
Yeah.
it's a lot of money, and it's just I just couldn't. It's depressing. Like it's not like investment. It was lovely to spend the day with Temba, and I'm sure people saw a match day experience. But Temba, like, are you going to be a bit like I can only see myself really for the rest of the season going to away games because that is the best kind of atmosphere. Like it just is, and we're relying on the back and forth between the opposition to have some sort of atmosphere and an investment in our money. Like, what do you think? I know we're not business experts, not marketing experts, but we're Chelsea fans at the end of the day. What can the club do, in your opinion, to kind of make Stamford Bridge an appealing place to visit again?
Well, for me, I'll start off with saying I don't think I'll ever be disappointed going to Stamford Bridge. Personally, I just always enjoy going there. Always have, always will, and I don't think that'll ever change in terms of my point of view. However, do I prefer it to away matches? No, I don't think anyone would ever tell you any different. But it's a sort of thing like a football day out. You go to see friends, you go to see the game, you get excited pre-match, you see everyone there and getting excited, and you get to see the players live, you feel the atmosphere. It's different from watching it on TV at the end of the day. And the years are where I could go every game and spend all that money, but now things have changed. Obviously, I can't do that every single week. So you sort of appreciate even more when you get the chance to go once every month or once every 2 months or whatever you do. And yeah, you just soak it in, sort of thing. And when you get atmospheres like that, it kind of does ruin it because you kind of hoping to see it. When I always tend to pick the games we always lose somehow. I don't know why that is. Even the finals, I've seen Chelsea at Wembley 7 times. We've lost every single time. And Chelsea were known notoriously to be good at Wembley for the last 20 years, pretty much. So yeah, again, maybe it's just my curse, but again, I think if you want to do this, it will have to be with like sort of a fans trust. I know the Chelsea Supporters Trust have been trying to engage with Roman at the time to get something in place where they could get like a little singing section or singing stand where, well, with the safe standing now, as you've seen, I think we were reduced about 2,000 seats. But at the same time, it gives that chance for fans to stand and chant where they're not being told to sit down by security guards or people in front of them, whatever. And if we could get, I know people hated it where they saw the Arsenal doing the pre-match songs. I don't know what pre-match song they do now. They've added like some sort of rendition of some song they do before the game, but little things like that even help. I know people say Palace with the drums is cringy, but you've got to do something in terms of.
I like Palace. I like Palace.
So
I know the average fan doesn't like things like that, but at the end of the day, it does help. I know it's like a small pain for a bit more gain, if you get what I mean. Like you've got to do something, because if you leave it like this, it just shows you like a soulless club, and I mean it in that sense of like you've got such a mix of people at Stamford Bridge, such a mix. You've got the silent fan who just stands there and claps. You've got the tourist will take a picture, doesn't know any single song, and you've got the hardcore fan, and they're all like sat next to each other, if you know what I mean. So you've got such a disconnect of people just all along there, and it sort of leaves only a little section singing. Maybe it's the Matthew Harding lower or the Shed upper or in Shed lower, and then both sides of the East Stand and Matthew Harding upper, or certain sections are just completely quiet. So it doesn't make a daunting atmosphere to think, oh, we'll come here. And it's a problem that all big clubs face, to be honest. But I think out of the top 6, we're probably the worst in terms of atmosphere. But I think that's a problem.
100%, 100%. It's just one of those things. I think I'm conscious of time. We try and keep this to an hour as well we possibly can. Let's quickly move thing here. Newcastle stands Zidane to Chelsea because Poch is not the guy. The jury's still out. We'll see. It's not looking good. It is not looking good, and we've got a very high conviction rate when it comes to getting rid of managers. Let's face it. We need to look quickly forward to the Chelsea versus Brighton preview. We Chelsea take on Brighton in the League Cup. I think Temba is in 2 minds about whether he's going to go down or not. He might do a little review for us, but chaps, I can't see us winning this one. If I'm completely honest, I think we're going to go out and lose 3-1. Charlie?
Yeah. Well, I think the only positive about that match will be just seeing some of the young bloods, if that makes sense, and seeing how they get on. That's about as positive as I can be on the subject. I think we'll probably lose more than likely, but you know, if we can see you know, a few of the players, you know, the younger players playing, then that'll be a good thing. You know, and that's probably
Tim,
about as good as we get.
Tim, what do you think? Do you think it could be a case of us getting a draw, winning on penalties? Robert Sanchez becomes the hero, turns everything around, we finish 5th?
I think it's either a narrow loss or it goes to penalties. And if it goes to penalties, I'm not confident we lose. But we win, sorry. I'm not confident we win. So I say draw at full time, lose on penalties.
Yeah. And then we return to Craven Cottage a week today. We've undecided about what we're going to do about this. Because obviously it happens at the same time. So we could probably either do a watch along. Let us know in the comments if you feel like we can probably do a watch along on this one. We might put the Fulham game on. We could do a live broadcast between all three of us. Or if you want to just do a review straight afterwards, please let us know in the comments. But I think we're going to try and keep this to an hour because Charlie is dying of COVID and I desperately need to pee. We could be back next week at 9:30 potentially if we don't do a live stream. Appreciate AJ and Niall for joining us from the Aston Villa perspective, and thank you very much to you guys for joining us. I really appreciate that.
Newcastle stand, big up, yeah, big up.
Appreciate it, Newcastle. You don't build a squad with average players and then turn. You don't build a squad build a squad with average players and turn them in. Sure. Anyway, I didn't understand that. Boys, I appreciate you both for joining us. We'll be back next week. Let us know in the comments if that's what you want to do. We are 1 subscriber away from 100 subscribers. So if you are watching us right now and you think, they don't talk complete nonsense, or maybe they do, but hit subscribe. Really appreciate it. We want to get our own little URL, and that means we can just put youtube.com/WeTalkChelsea. That would mean the world to us, just 3 lads in their back bedrooms in Birmingham. But appreciate you all. Chaps, we'll see you next week. Take care. Up the Chelsea.